The UK state pension is set to go up by £574.60p a year from next April. This is after new wage growth figures released yesterday. They showed a higher rise than was predicted. And this means that thousands of pensioners will be just £22 away from paying income tax. The triple lock means that pensions will go up every year based on the highest figure out of the rate of inflation, wage growth figures, or 2.5%. So this latest jump will see pensions go up by 4.8% next April. But with the budget looming next month and lots of huge decisions ahead for the Chancellor, can Britain really afford the triple lock pension promise? I'm going to go to Eve first on the grounds of seniority, maturity and vintage.
I'm worried about this. It's very difficult that we've got less money, but it's also very difficult that I don't know that food has ever cost more.
Absolutely.
All sorts of things
so
cost
expensive.
More. Yeah. And I also know that a lot of over 65-year-olds are still working. In fact, the figures are going up for 65-year-olds working and up for 20-year-olds not working and getting benefits. So there has to be a sensible thing to do. I feel that people, particularly who are 65 and older now, or I think it's 66, isn't it?
Well, it's going up to 67 by the time it gets to
soon
me.
they'll reach me.
Inching up those goalposts.
I know. If you're 90, just shoot me. But I think it will be a situation where, you know, they'll either have to give you a special voucher so you can get food cheaper or electricity feature or whatever, or the country, or I think a lot of old people would work, but, you know, there's no way for them to work. They don't understand work. I think a lot of people could get jobs and that would help. But it shows we're in a bit of a mess, isn't it?
It doesn't seem good, does it? I mean, I was talking to a taxi driver the other day. He said he's just got his pension. He's 66. I think he's getting £120. That's what he was getting at the moment. But he's still driving the taxi. So he has to pay 40% tax on that £120. By the time he's left with 60 quid or something, £65.
Yes.
After all these years of work at the age of 66, it's also complicated, it's difficult, time-consuming, and also frightening, all this internet stuff where you have to do everything online and you just think...
That is frightening for older people.
Awful. So what do you think, Penny, this triple lock?
I just think it's extremely unfair for people that have worked their entire life, contributed to society, and then just when life gets hard, they start suffering, you know, with the TV licence and the cost of living. It should be our pensioners that we look after because, of course, their pensioners are living much longer lives and we want them to live more fruitful, happy lives. And maybe more should be done about providing job opportunities and work experience for younger generation when they come out of school or university so that they don't have to sign on. So somehow find that balance.
What do you think, Jeremy?
Well, this is a tricky one because I do agree, because if you've worked your whole life, you've therefore contributed a huge amount throughout that, so therefore you deserve it. But unfortunately, I don't think that's what Labour are thinking. They're desperately trying to get hold of the older vote. That's what it is for me, because they're terrified of reform, because reform are doing very well in the older people, and that's really what I think it is. I think they're trying to buy votes. I don't think this is a case of, we need to look after our pensioners. It's a case of where can we put our money? Can we afford it? No, we cannot afford it. We're 50 billion in debt. How can we keep doling out money? And it is a huge amount of extra money, which isn't going to make a massive difference. Now, I know there are still a lot of people having pensions that are struggling, but I kind of think we've maxed out on it. You know, I'm sorry to say, I think we have, and I don't believe that I don't think their motives are altruistic. I think they're purely to try and buy votes.
I think, Jeremy, they don't care what the motive is. As long as they get the money, which they need, they'll be relieved to have it. Whether Labour's doing it to buy their votes or whether Labour's doing it because it loves and cares for them will be the least of their concerns. They'll just want the money because they'll need it. Let's talk to Eileen in Lancashire about this. Eileen, how do you feel about the triple lock and the cost of pensions for the rest of the country?
Well, I've worked for a long, long time, and I've been on my own for 38 years next week with 3 children. And I went back to work after I'd had brain surgery, and I was brain damaged for 7.5 years. And I think that I've earned my pension, and I get £14,521.32, counting a tiny private pension. And I have to pay £496.80 a year tax. And I have to run a house and a car off my pension. And I only had a tiny little private pension because I was working with 3 children and paying a mortgage and looking after them. And it was very, very difficult, but I did it. And I think I deserve to have some pension because I didn't have the excess money to contribute to a pension till about 5 or 6 years before I retired.
Yes.
And it's very, very difficult running a house of just over £14,000 and a car.
I mean, that was going to be my question for you, Eileen. I was going to ask you, what's life like? Because we talk about, sums of money, but actually living, having a nice, as Penny says, and a happy time, an enjoyable life. You're able to do a few things that you enjoy. How is it on the amount of money that you've got?
Well, I do things that don't cost money.
Yeah.
Because I've got 4 grandchildren who I absolutely adore, and I've got 3 children who I absolutely adore. And that's the biggest part of my life, because I do things with them and I look forward to seeing them. And, I try to support them and to be there for them, listen and always be a listening ear. And, I've been on my own for so long with them. It's just me and my 3 children. Yeah. And I've worked really hard at bringing up my children. I mean, I've been brain damaged for 7.5 years after my brain surgery. And they were only 4, 5 and 8. And now they're 44, 45 and 47. Brilliant. So it's been a long, long time. Yeah. But I put all my efforts into them. And I think really I need to have time off. Because I had breast cancer 8.5 years ago.
Just want to say, they're very, I hope they realise how lucky they are to have you, because you're absolutely salt of the earth and, built of really sterling stuff. I mean, what a fantastic person.
Yeah, what an example.
Incredible. What a grafter as well.
But also, if you think, France is now up in arms because somebody wants to raise the retirement age to 64, because at the moment it's 62.
Yeah.
I mean, surely there's some civil servants who could be moved out of London or save some money on it. I mean, I think we're just getting top heavy.
But also, I think that there's an opportunity here for the government to think outside the box a bit and perhaps start putting pressure on businesses to give discounts to people, rather than it all coming from the one pot that has to feed everybody. The supermarkets are recording the biggest profits ever, the gas company, we know all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And, rather than giving people actually money, saying, well, you qualify for this discount. And also, I do believe in...
with the food stamps.
Yes.
And,
but
means testing as well. There's other things you can do. You can get other parts of our country to contribute rather than it all coming from that one pot, because there simply isn't enough.
Right, that takes us back to that conversation about, and everyone always victimises poor old Alan Sugar, but they always say, does Lord Sugar really need a pension? Does Mick Jagger really need a pension?
Well, that's the means.
They might even say, does Sir Rod Stewart even really need a pension? And that is an issue, isn't it? That there are people who don't need it, won't rely on it, won't even notice it, who will get it, should they get it. Then they say, so expensive to means tested, it's not even worth doing.
Well, that's what they say.
That's what they say.
Yeah, but to give people some chance, certainly for food, certainly for electricity, to get some money back.
But I think it should come from the businesses themselves. They should be pushed. To drive that.
But business would say they're in very great trouble because of 20% national insurance,
Should we go straight to Anne, who's in Bedfordshire? Hello, Anne.
Hello there.
What do you think about this one?
I don't think they can afford it, absolutely not. But at the same time, we're punishing the very people who have worked so hard in order to support the economy. But what this government also don't seem to take into account is that people of my age, I'm coming up to 62, worked really hard all of my life to the point where I actually got burnout in my 30s and 40s because I worked so hard in order to prepare for my pension years, as we're asked to do. And then in my mid-50s, I had to stop work, give up my career to care for my elderly mother.
Oh, gosh.
And I think we're creating almost another generation, the next generation of WASPy women, and I'd like to say men. It's all happening again because I had planned ahead, but then suddenly, all too late, I'm told, you're going to have to wait another 2 years now for your pension. So I've had to completely replan my whole pensionable future. And I want to get back to work, having done the care years, and I did that willingly. She's my mother, it's what you do. But at my age, it's so much harder to get back into work, even with all the years of experience that I've got. So I'm looking at, potentially downsizing my home, moving away from people that I know. it creates a huge upheaval.
Yes.
You know, in people's lives, and that we're just not given enough warning. It's still not happening.
I mean, Eve, it's a raft. I mean, it looks as if Anne is facing a raft of unpleasant decisions.
Correct.
None of which she really wants to make, and they all feel, don't they, forced upon her. You know, she hasn't done anything wrong.
No.
She hasn't been feckless. She saved the government a huge amount of money by caring for her own mother, though, of course, she's lovely and she says it's a great privilege, but it must have been very hard. She had to give up work to do it. And now look.
And now she's got to move away from everybody she knows and all the rest of it. It's very hard as you get older.
Yeah, very hard. I mean, Penny, it's not how we imagine it going, is it?
No, I mean, there's always the talk of people's loneliness as they get older, and they're separated from families. But what struck a chord with me was when Eve was talking about leaving work in her 50s, because so many women going through the menopause, getting brain fog and anxiety, are leaving the workforce because of the side effects of menopause, and the business is not recognising them, and that's a devastation to a lot of big companies when they're losing that huge part of the workforce.
Expertise, which is really...
And they know everybody, they know how to make everything work, they know where all the sort of bits are.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot to this puzzle to keep people working to at least their pension age.
Absolutely, and the sandwich generation who are looking after kids and elderly parents at the same time, and absolutely kind of run ragged. Very, very difficult times. Let's talk to Debbie in Buckinghamshire. Debbie, how are you feeling about this situation?
Passionate, very, very passionate about it, Vanessa. I've recently become a pensioner. I had to wait that extra year, and I was really looking forward to it because it's something we paid into. I worked as a single parent. My children were 4 and 2, and I worked all my life. I got the full state pension, but the winter fuel got stopped for me. And it was only given to the people that actually didn't work and they were on benefit and could claim pension credit. And it's something we paid into. We paid for our pension. So they say they can't afford it. Well, where did our money go? It's like taking out a life insurance, paying every month, and then when you die, being told, well, actually, I don't think we've got the money anymore. You've paid in, but the money's not there. I mean...
So, Debbie, it's going to go up by £574.60p. How important is that extra money to you personally in terms of the kind of life you can live?
Do you know what, Vanessa? The cost of living is so high. Yeah. I now go out shopping and I look for reduced things or things that are going to go out of date. And I freeze a lot of things, and I cook in bulk and I freeze a lot of things because I can't afford to live the way I did before I retired. You know, I was cold the other day and I just went up and got my electric blanket, wrapped it around me because I'm so scared of putting the heating on because that's all just gone up in October.
I don't know about anyone else, but I just got my water bill. I had to read it twice.
Don't.
I thought, hang on, where are my glasses? Can it really be this much? I was absolutely astounded. I was just, my God. Debbie, you know, things are very rough and it doesn't feel, Jeremy, at all fair, does it?
It's not, and I'm really fed up, as I know the rest of the country is, with this whole idea of this constant austerity, of constantly trying to cut back on, of us all having to cut back on things because the people in power keep making mistakes. They're not taking care. Like that lady said, where's the money gone? You know, everyone's put this money in and it's been frittered away. It's been given to nefarious individuals, in my opinion, you know, with corporations making an absolute fortune and all these dodgy decisions. I'm sorry, it's true, but it has been frittered away. It's not coming back. They're not putting it back into circulation. And I think it's disgusting. And it is so expensive. And you should be enjoying this time of your life. There should be the time when you're putting your feet up and be able to take yourself out for dinner and go to the cinema and take your grandkids out and do all the rest of it. And I think it's vile. Sorry.
Absolutely. I mean, I talked to a bencher the other day and she said, people always say, you know, meet a friend for coffee. She said, but £3.50 for a coffee.
And the rest.
She said, I can't afford that. She said, you know, there's no way I can afford that. You know,
but that's one of the great joys about finally retiring is being, and that's what keeps you going, is your friends who tell you how they're managing and who's died usually. And all of that. It's a great thing to do. Actually, maybe you should just give us a last delicious meal and shoot us.
Stop it. That's the second time she's asked to be shot. We don't mean it. She doesn't mean it literally. She's actually having a nice time, as you can see. And she doesn't mean it. Right. Let's go to Shirley in Hampshire. Shirley, this triple lock is very important to you, as to so many people watching, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I do think that we shouldn't complain about the tax we have to pay.
Right.
If somebody working gets to a certain level and they pay tax, then I think it's only fair that the pensioners do as well.
And you don't think it's incredibly complicated, and it's relatively tiny amounts of money, and all the kind of administration and the form filling in and the accountants that have to get involved for, tax of, what are we told, £22? Lots of people are just £22 away from now being in the tax bracket. It's tiny increments, really, in the scheme of things, Shirley, isn't it?
Yeah, but if everybody gave a penny, that's millions of pounds.
So, well, that's a perfectly feasible way of life. You bring me right back to the days when you used to have your money in biscuit tins. Like, that really made sense to me. You've got money for the rent, got money for Christmas. You've got
Can I just say one more quick thing?
Yes, please.
Grandparents give a lot of their money away to their grandchildren. Yep. So financially, they're helping them.
Also true, and actually we did a whole item about that this week on the show, about the grandchildren who ask the grandparents for the money, and it's a really big percentage of grandchildren ask the grandparents. Number one expense that they want the grandparents to pay for, do you know?
My grandchildren never asked me for a penny.
Well, they asked for a car.
I was going to say car. I was going to say 23%.
Well, no, I offered a car as a bribe, as a bribe, if you got into university. I didn't say how old it would be.
Gosh, I was more like £10 for an A grade. I didn't buy a car. Blimey, go to university on the bus. That's what my dad would have said.